Hey guys, and welcome back to the randomized K-On! Pokemon Team Series. Time for us to start the Kalos segment, so let's kick it off with Yui. Yui's first Pokemon will be Klefki. Starting off with a cute Pokemon for Yui, Fitting. Klefki is a decent Pokemon with a good type combination. Gen 6 is where poison types started becoming actually relevant, so giving it the steel type to counteract that was a smart move. It doesn't have amazing stats, but they're passable. For abilities, I tend to hear Prankster talked about more, but it sounds very useful. For level up moves, there are a few good ones here. Play Rough is very effective, Mirror Shot is okay, and Foul Play gives some coverage. For TMs, it doesn't open up all that much, but getting Psychic, Flash Cannon, and Dazzling Gleam gives super coverage given they're all really strong and perfectly accurate. So not a terrible start, far from the most overpowered introduction to Fairy, but it has its uses. Yui's second Pokemon will be Liepard. That's pretty decent. Dark types like Liepard are a bit more worse off from Gen 6 onwards due to the Fairy weakness in addition to the prior fighting weakness, but they're still important to have around to check Psychic types. It's not very bulky, but it's really fast and hits quite hard. For abilities, not having to worry about paralysis is extremely useful, and the other two would be handy to have. For level up moves, Slash, Night Slash, and Sucker Punch are great hard-hitting moves, and having Play Rough to check fighting types is very welcome. For TMs, it has some nice coverage options. Combining its level up and TM moves, you could make a pretty well-rounded set. So a very good team member, and one that Yui would absolutely want to have as a pet. Yui's third Pokemon will be Glaceon. It's always nice to see an evolution show up. Glaceon does have some issues due to its ice typing, but it can still work very well. It has great defenses and special attack, but the other three are pretty middling. For abilities, while they are very useful in their own right, the fact that Hail has to be active is a real pain. For level up moves, Icy Wind isn't terrible, but why did they give it Ice Fang instead of Ice Beam? Glaceon does not have the physical attack for it. For TMs, it's limited. Ice Beam and Shadow Ball are the best options. I think giving it a water move like Bubble Beam or Water Pulse would have been beneficial since there are other ice types that can learn water attacks. So a fairly solid addition. The evolutions all have their uses and can fill different roles, and Glaceon, despite its issues, is still very useful. Yui's fourth Pokemon will be Yanmega. Better to give a Pokemon that looks like this to Yui instead of Mio. Yanmega's pretty highly spoken of among Poketubers. It's very fast with terrific special attack, so it'll hit really hard. For abilities, I believe Speed Boost is typically what players tend to want, though Tinted Lens might be useful in some ways. For level up moves, there are some good ones here, and having Ancient Power to combat fire types is wonderful. For TMs, there are some options, but not having access to X-Scissor is really disappointing as it's regarded as one of the best bug attacks. So a damn good Pokemon to get. This was a much needed evolution for Yanmega, and they did a good job with it. Yui's fifth Pokemon will be Espeon, another evolution for Yui, and Espeon is a very good evolution. It mostly focuses on special and speed with poor physical stats. For abilities, Synchronize is seemingly the better of the two, or the most annoying if you go against it. But being shielded against status changes is also pretty good. For level up moves, it's very basic. Psychic types, or at least pure Psychic types, tend to be very linear with naturally learned moves, having practically zero coverage. For TMs, it opens up a tiny bit. Getting Dazzling Gleam for coverage against the huge Dark threat is most welcome, and Shadow Ball of course helps with Ghost types. So another strong addition. It's not often we see multiple evolutions on a K-On! Team. I might have to go back and count how many times it's happened. And Yui's last Pokemon will be Aegislash. That is a phenomenal ending to this team. I've heard nothing but great things about Aegislash, such as its typing. Its stats differ depending on the form it's in, either favoring offense or defense, though the lack of HP and speed is concerning. For abilities, it only has the one, which causes it to switch forms depending on the move that's used. For level up moves, it does have a lot of coverage, but if you use an Aegis Slash right off the bat, you'll be limited on what you get, though you absolutely want to have King Shield. For TMs, it doesn't get that much coverage, and if you follow the standard rule of not having multiple moves of the same type, you basically have to skip the Steel TMs if you keep King Shield. So an amazing ending for the team. It's very powerful, highly spoken of, and a strong recommendation if you have access to it. And that's it for Yui's Gen 6 team. This is a very good start to the Kalos section. Yui scored some great team members. As always, please rate, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on X, consider backing me on Patreon, and remember to stay chilled.